On a special night in Iowa on this Monday. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ron Steele.
And I'm Abby Turpin. Thank you so much for joining us for our Caucus 2020 coverage.
And of course, thousands of Iowans from across the state proclaiming at caucuses tonight who they would like to see as the nominee in their particular party. Democrats caucus differently than Republicans, as you know. The Democrats are caucusing differently in the past, too, and we'll talk more about that with KWWL political analyst Chris Larimer here in just a few minutes.
Unlike 2016, results for the Democratic Party are very slow to come in tonight. At this point, what you're seeing on your screen, the first alignment numbers look like this. That is only 3% reporting. Bernie Sanders getting the most support, 26%.
Yeah, it's a really, in fact, 80% of the votes or the caucus results were in by this time 4 years ago. So we're not sure yet if it's the new smartphone caucus reporting app from the Iowa Democratic Party. Something's wrong with that, perhaps. The party says it's exercising quality control, and I've heard a lot of complaining at the network level about the slow results coming in here tonight.
And we do have Team 7 coverage all across our state.
Colin Dorsey and also Matt Breen in Des Moines for us live.
Good evening from Des Moines. Patience really is proving to be a virtue, especially for Democrats. Tonight, the last time you saw us half an hour ago, we had hoped to be able to bring you new numbers from Des Moines. Of course, we still have nothing on the board behind us. That board behind us reading results coming soon. That's the same message it's had for the last 3.5 hours, which is quite the oddity compared to previous years.
Yeah, Colin, this is the fourth caucus that I've covered from Des Moines, and never in 4 caucuses has it taken this long to get us numbers. 4 years ago, we already knew Ted Cruz had won the Republican caucus, and we knew that it was Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders that was going to win the Democratic caucus. Right now, we have no numbers to speak of, maybe a smattering of initial preferences. I think the delay may be for a couple of reasons. One, we know the Democratic Party shifted gears this year, and at the direction of the DNC, Iowa Democrats, under full disclosure, decided to release not just final preference and state delegate equivalent, they also would release first preference. And of course, they won't release any numbers from a caucus site until they have them all: the first preference, the final preference, and the state delegate equivalent. Also, a tweet from the Polk County Democratic Party chair earlier tonight said they had printed tens of thousands of new voter registration forms and distributed those to caucus sites. They ran out in some places, and of course it takes time to get forms to those caucus sites that ran out, and that delayed the process of getting people in the door and delayed the caucus process altogether.
And of course we can back that up. Our political analyst at KWWL saying earlier that early entrance data shows that age group 17 to 29 along with 60 and older are showing slightly better numbers than they had in 2008. So more people slows down the process.
It certainly does, but of course that may mean record turnout on the Democratic side. They set a record back in 2008 with 239,000 caucus goers. Republicans set a record 4 years ago. I don't think they'll eclipse that this year because it was a foregone conclusion that President Donald Trump was going to win the Republican caucus here in Iowa with about 98% of the precincts reporting statewide. The president is going to handily win the Iowa caucuses in the Hawkeye state, followed closely by Joe Walsh and Bill Weld. Not closely, but followed by Joe Walsh and Bill Weld. They polling at about 1% at this point.
Each of them, probably between the two of them, only in the board behind us, I can only count about 800 votes split between the two.
So once again, we continue to wait for those initial results to come in here to the Media Reporting Center. It still says results coming soon. We certainly hope that's the case because we want to get those results to you, and we'll do so as they come in. For Colin Dorsey, I'm Matt Breen. We're live in Des Moines at the Media Filing Center. Now back to you.
Yeah, I can tell you guys are as frustrated as we are here tonight just waiting for these numbers. And you know, it's really not about the raw numbers, though, that they're doing for the first time here tonight or the actual votes. It's about delegates. So we want to bring onto the set live here right now our KWWL political analyst, Dr. Chris Larimer of the University of Northern Iowa.
Yeah, and Chris, tell us more about this, because the delegate equivalents might be very confusing to many people. So if you could explain that process.
Sure. So as you mentioned, there are going to be 3 numbers tonight. We're going to see the number of first alignment, and then the final alignment number based on viability, and then that number is used to determine the state delegate equivalents.
Right now, let's focus on some Blackout County numbers.
Yeah, the first alignment numbers are showing us with just 3% reporting still. Bernie Sanders, 24% support, Joe Biden, 22% support, and Pete Buttigieg with 18% support.
Yeah, and these are really kind of meaningless right now because we have such a low count coming in, the final alignments for Democrats in Blackout County on your screen. That remember, this is only 3%. We have really seen nothing from the Iowa Democratic Party yet as far as actual numbers coming in, and then we don't really know anything about the delegate equivalency at this point.
Absolutely. It's going to go to our next full screen if we can, showing the final alignment numbers. Again, we have nothing in at this time, so of course that also means we have nothing in right now as far as the delegate equivalents.
Let's go to the Republican side real quickly here. It's all President Trump, of course, and we talked about this a little bit earlier. Those Republican numbers, remember there were Republican caucuses as well tonight, but the president, of course, unopposed, so he had 98, 99% of those who did attend, 97 right there on your screen, did attend a Republican caucus tonight in Iowa. Overall, there were 62 Democratic caucus locations across Blackout County.
And the county's Democratic chair told us that registration numbers were 50% higher than in 2016.
With that in mind, let's check in right now live with KWWL reporter Olivia Schmidt. Olivia spent the night in Waterloo at one of those caucuses. Tell us more.
Hey guys, yeah, I spent the evening at Irving Elementary in Waterloo. One precinct was in the cafeteria, one precinct was in the gymnasium. The entire process taking a little less than 2 hours. Now, the precinct caucus chair started the night reminding everyone to be kind, saying they were all there for the same reason, to beat President Trump in November.
We're going to talk a little bit more with Chris about that in just a moment, because once again we talked about it's a very confusing process, and again only 3% of the first numbers are out tonight, so we're keeping an eye on that.
It becomes a lot more confusing when you can't get the numbers out. That's for sure. So that's, I mean, this is not a good night for Iowa's, at least on the Democratic side, for Iowa's first in the nation precinct caucuses. There's no doubt about that. So KWW reporter Vinny Lowry has been covering Democrats in Dubuque for us tonight.
Yeah, he was at precinct 17 in Northeast Iowa Community College.
He's live right now in downtown Dubuque. Vinny.
110 people actually turned out to caucus for the Democrats at this specific precinct as people debated topics ranging from health care to electability and, of course, persuading others to join their alignment. Some of you might have also seen observers not participating, simply watching. Foreign exchange student Pete Ramon from Scotland, who came down from the University of Wisconsin, says Iowans should recognize how much power they have tonight.
It's also important to everyone across the world. Everyone is watching this. I mean, there's an old saying back home, which is when America sneezes, Britain catches a cold. Usually that refers to the economy. When there's an economic crisis here, everyone else is affected as well.
Ramon currently studies politics, and he says if he had the choice of caucusing, he would caucus for Bernie. He also says it's been a dream growing up seeing the Iowa caucus in the United Kingdom on TV, but now he got to see it happen in action. After the second alignment, the viable groups were Warren, Buttigieg, Sanders, as well as Klobuchar. Biden, however, was deemed not viable at Precinct 17. And also Tom Steyer at this specific precinct had no representatives for his campaign. Live in Dubuque, Vinny Lowry, News 7 KWWL.
Okay, Vinny, some of those very early results coming in out of Dubuque County. We appreciate your reporting tonight there. Of course, Iowa taking the world's center stage on the political scene. Eyes turning toward the first in the nation caucuses tonight, but not faring so well as the numbers are just not coming in from the Iowa Democratic Party yet.
Absolutely. For such a long time, candidates have been racing across our state's 99 counties for many months, all leading up to tonight. But of course, as we've mentioned, there is a delay right now. So let's turn now, though, to a live report from Taylor Vessel. He's standing by in Des Moines. Taylor, what have you heard right now?
Ron and Abby, I really want to talk about that delay for a second because it's something that all the journalists here in the Media Filing Center in Des Moines are paying attention to. For 3.5 hours almost now, we've been waiting for the Democrats to come back with some sort of numbers. What I've got here for you is a quote from the Register right now. Mandy McClure, the communications director for the Iowa Democratic Party, acknowledges the delays that we've been talking about from the app and also from that new counting system with 3 sets of data coming out tonight. What they say is what we know right now is that around 25% of precincts have reported expected, and early data indicates turnout is on pace for 2016. Now, of course, for the Democrats, the big year was 2008 with more than 200,000 Democrats turning out to caucus that year. Not sure if that's how it will be this year or not. We have heard that young voter turnout seems to be up so far, especially for Bernie Sanders supporters. Again, we are waiting desperately for some results to come in right now. A lot of what we're seeing is just what we're noticing online and just what's coming in anecdotally through Twitter. So we will continue to stand by here and watch for results and also more answers on what is taking so long and how those delays are playing out. Reporting live in Des Moines, Taylor Vessel, News 7 KWWL.
Yeah, Taylor, thanks a lot. In fact, we're even hearing that some of the phone lines to the Iowa Democratic Party headquarters went down tonight, so obviously compounding the situation, which is also pretty dire at this point. Yeah.
Quite a night. We're all in the same boat. We do want to remind everyone that as the results eventually do come in, of course, you can find everything on our website, KWWL.com. We now want to turn back to our political analyst, Dr. Chris Larimer from the University of Northern Iowa. And Chris, since we do have some time, let's talk a little bit about the history of caucuses. For those who don't know, as I've been researching leading up to this night, very interesting. And of course, I think a lot of people are aware that really the big change came in 1976 with Jimmy Carter.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, the caucuses were really born out of the, I guess you could call it the disaster of the Democratic National Convention in 1968.
It looks like everybody's a winner so far. I mean, you listen to these speeches, nobody's conceding anything. Everybody's still in the race. Maybe for some of these candidates, this turned out to be a good thing.
Yeah, I certainly think they're trying to spin it any way they
exactly.
can. And as you said, Senator Klobuchar was on first, and so that probably had the most viewers by that point.
Exactly.
And then as we get further on to the night, I'm sure people are switching on and moving on from the Iowa caucuses. But again, just have to worry about what this means for the future of the Iowa caucuses.
Yeah, and we don't mean to be overly critical, but
No.
we're just getting out ahead because these are the questions that the national press is going to be demanding answers from, because obviously you can't let people wait all night long, particularly when 4 years ago 80% of the caucus results were in by 10 o'clock.
Well, this is something that will go down in the history books as far as politics is concerned. People will not forget this night.
Yeah.
No, certainly people outside of Iowa are not going to forget this. I mean, this is another point of criticism about the caucuses, and this is a really big one. And I think what's also unfortunate, they may, conflate the non-release of the Des Moines Register Iowa poll with what happened here, and those two things are absolutely not related. But I think it's just those events are going to pile up, and for people who are outside of Iowa, they're going to pile up in terms of their narrative about Iowa and why Iowa should go first. We already had all the criticisms about whether or not it's representative, that the process is very unique, and now you add problems with reporting. That's going to be a big problem for the caucuses, and that was a problem for the Republican caucuses in 2012, where they had to do the recount. There were a lot of criticism after that.
So the big winner tonight looks like Wikipedia wins tonight, because there's going to be a lot of addendums to the Wikipedia article on the 2020 Iowa Democratic caucuses. Let's talk just real quick before we go to Olivia Schmidt standing by live. The Register, that Register poll has been around for almost 80 years. To not have it come out as everyone was expecting. The day before the caucuses, are actually on Saturday night for the Sunday edition.
Right.
That had to be, I think, a devastating blow to Amy
What was your
Klobuchar,
reaction to
because
that?
she was expecting to do well.
Yeah, it was very disappointing. I mean, I talked about it in class. I have an Iowa politics class I'm teaching right now. We're talking about the caucuses, and I said on Friday before we left, make sure you watch for that poll come out, because as we talked about, it's a good barometer, last-minute barometer, that last data point for sort of any indication about what's going to happen on caucus night.
Okay, once again, if you happen to just be tuning in, we only have 3% reporting because of significant issues going on with the number system the Democratic Party is using. Right there, you're seeing 3% reporting. This is statewide. Bernie Sanders, 20. Oh, it looks like that's a final alignment now. That's 28%, and that's 2% reporting. Again, this is the final alignment. So that was the one you saw before that first. This is the final. Again, only 2% reporting, but we just want to make sure that you're seeing those numbers just as accurately as we are seeing them as the night goes on.
Well, I can't miss it. It says 0. So it's pretty hard to miss that. So let's go back down to Lynn County. I'm actually a neighbor, our reporter out of Lynn County on a daily basis. She had an interesting assignment tonight because she had to go to, or she got the privilege to go to Taft School, and there not just a Democratic caucus taking place, but a Republican. So that's a very historic situation for you personally, because you got to go there on caucus night and see both sides.
Well, that's right, Ron. This was a very exciting night for me. Before living here in Iowa, I'm from New Mexico, so we obviously don't get to take part in this. A lot of Iowans here tonight actually told me they take this very seriously and do feel like they need to be informed and meet a lot of the candidates. Now, I did kind of focus in on the Republican Party here in Linn County, and before they got started here at the caucus, I was talking with the precinct captain and asking him how many people he was really expecting to show up, you know, even though they really didn't necessarily need to be here. It's been pretty clear from the beginning who their ending candidate is going to be, Donald Trump.
This is what you're going to be hearing from the world and national press here in the next few days. Here's the headline from Reuters tonight. Democratic presidential race off to a rocky start as Iowa results delayed by inconsistencies. You're going to hear that now the rest of the week and beyond. Yeah.
And what we're hearing from our producers is that we're actually going to end up rejoining programming, because at this point it looks like they're not going to have any type of answer for us coming up in the coming hours, whether that be nothing until tomorrow morning, tomorrow in the afternoon. So I kind of want to ask you, Chris, first of all, are you kind of disappointed? This is what you do for a living.
Yes.
You study these things. Are you disappointed about this?
I am absolutely disappointed. Yeah, I love election night. I love you finally get results, right? All the speculation can stop, and you finally have results. You finally get a sense of what voters are actually thinking and who they like as a candidate, what direction they want to see with a candidate, what direction they want to see going forward. It allows you to move forward to think about the general election. And again, we're just missing that key data point now that political scientists depend on.
Chris, thanks a lot. You did
Thank
a
you so
fantastic
much.
job here
I
tonight.
really appreciate you
Thank
being
you.
We're
here.
going to do one
Thank
more
you.
live report before we send it back to NBC programming here tonight. Let's go to KWWL reporter Travis Breeze. And of course, he is in Johnson County for us tonight. Travis.
Yeah, Ron and Abby, since we last talked, I have come to Iowa City Precinct 5. This was one of the ones for University of Iowa students, and one where Johnson County Democrats caucus organizer John Deeth told me that they did have some problems with some students leaving after their candidates were declared non-viable, and doing that without filling out a second choice on their preference card. So that did help Pete Buttigieg's campaign become viable during the realignment period, and the delegate count here at Precinct 5 ended up being 4 for Senator Bernie Sanders, 3 for Senator Elizabeth Warren, and then 2 for former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg. This confusion for the students around, you know, the caucus periods and whatnot, it's not for lack of outreach, though. We covered a mock caucus here just Friday night where definitely over 100 people became well educated. So we are, like you guys have been saying all night, still waiting for some answers, I guess, from the Democratic Party. But reporting live here in Johnson County, Travis Breeze, News 7 KWWL.
All right, Travis, thank you very much. And so that does it for our KWWL Caucus 2020 coverage. Certainly not the night that we expected, that you expected, but we will continue to have any type of updates on our website, kwwl.com, and also coming up tomorrow morning on Today in Iowa.
Yeah, the bottom line here tonight is we do not have a winner yet in the 2020 Iowa Democratic caucuses. Good night, everyone.